Welcome back to 360 Sports Network. This is Greg, the mad scientist, Kashara. With me tonight, Alex Delaverson and the Professor, James Dotson. Guess what, folks? It's midterm season for NFL. How goes it?
It's going well. It's been a fun first half of the season. I'm still sticking with my Super Bowl pick. A lot of things going according to plan. Started off slow in fantasy, but now thanks to Peyton Manning, I have life again. So I can't complain.
All's well here for Professor Dotson. We're just, the weather's getting cooler, but the temperature's rising when it comes to figuring out what's going on in the world of the NFL.
Well, before we pass out our mid-season grades here, let's take a look and see who were the surprises, the dis-surprises, or the disappointments of the season, and the real sleepers that have just suddenly emerged out of the league itself. So let's go to El Professor Dotson.
Well, I think we all need to start with the biggest surprise of the season, and that is definitely the Indianapolis Colts, with the fact that they had 2 wins all of last year. They lose their head coach early in the season. They have an offensive coordinator who, in his first year coordinating the team, who has to take over the team. And wouldn't you know, that team is now 5-3 and right now would be in the playoffs. Indianapolis Colts are just the great story of the NFL, a big surprise to everybody. Heck, Andrew Luck just set the record for most passing yards by a rookie quarterback. So, in my mind, no doubt the Colts are the big surprise, and hats off to them, hats off to Chuck Pagano and everybody who is a Colt fan today.
I agree. That was my surprise, too. Think about this. Bruce Arians, one of the most hated men in Pittsburgh, gets run out of the Steel City, goes to Indianapolis, becomes a head coach there, and now his team is doing well. Bruce Arians is now a head coach doing well with the Indianapolis Colts. Of course, he didn't want to get the job that way, but it is what it is. But, he must be happy. He must, in the inside, be thinking, to himself how leaving Pittsburgh was one of the best things that happened to him. Well, not leaving Pittsburgh, retiring, and then coming out of retirement. So that has just been a pleasant surprise down there in Indianapolis, and just the play of Andrew Luck. The whole team, it's just something to be proud of if you're a Colts fan.
I have to agree there. That is a surprise. However, I think my biggest surprise has been the Miami Dolphins and how potent their defense has been, and how strong Tannehill's been at quarterback.
No, I can agree with that. I mean, Tannehill, I just mentioned that Luck set the rookie passing record for a game. Ryan Tannehill has a game where he had 2 yards less than Andrew Luck has for the new record. So Tannehill as well has had an absolutely great season. I was not expecting that at all. I guess maybe, if the Dolphins would have beat the Colts last week, maybe I would have said the Dolphins were the bigger surprise. But both teams, great stories in the AFC, and both have very legitimate chances to make the playoffs as wildcard teams. The only problem, Indy plays in the Texans division, and Miami plays in New England.
Mm-hmm. Now, there have been some disappointments as well this season. We've just kind of touched upon some of the surprises. But before we get to the disappointments, are there any other surprises or pleasant surprises out there that we've seen?
Oh, I would have said the Cardinals. I think they started out 4-0. But now, I guess in a disappointing way, I guess I'm surprised they lost, 4 or 5 in a row now. So
Should start 4-0, and now they're 4-5. It's a very big disappointment. We were all excited about Wissenhunt and Pittsburgh West, and that's just absolutely tanked. And maybe I'll say for another pleasant surprise is the bounce back that the New Orleans Saints have had after starting off so rotten. And right now they're at a very good 3-5, if you can believe that. At this point in the year, 3-5 is very workable, and the way the Saints are playing, I still see them as a playoff team, believe it or not.
Yeah, they're definitely playing at a faster and more at a faster pace. I would think probably my other surprise of the season so far has been the heads-up play of Brandon Wheaton and this wide receiver they call Josh Gordon up there.
He's great what he's doing there. The only thing is, we were actually talking about this on our Crane Room podcast tonight. The Browns actually drafted him on the downside of his career. He's 30 years old. I just feel like he's not going to have enough of a sample size, enough time to really get established down there in Cleveland. And I guess one of the things I'm not surprised with this year is just the Browns being the Browns again. So I just think you have to be frustrated as a Cleveland fan because it just seems like the organization defies logic.
Well, the organization does. Actually, it's not really so much the organization. It's the coaching. It's mostly Pat Shurmur that defies logic. But you take a look at the players. Trent Richardson has just been an absolute beast up there. And he's a very consistent fantasy running back. The other person, Josh Gordon, has speed, I believe, as quick, if not quicker, than Mike Wallace. And with those two people, those two players can definitely turn an offense around. And the Cleveland Browns, I believe, are probably, I'd say, one player away from actually breaking this thing open and being a competitive team.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. They are, like you said, maybe one player away. I would say more that they are one coach away because all talk in Cleveland is that there's no way that the coaching staff stays as it is throughout the rest of the season, but definitely not in the offseason either.
Right. Now, some of the disappointments of the season. You have to head west to Kansas City. Kansas City started the season with so much hype, so much hope. Matt Castle was going to outperform Tom Brady and everybody else, and they had the receiving core, they had everything together, and this team has just, they've laid the egg, let's put it that way. It's just a total mess over there in Kansas City.
Well, I mean, you look at who they have out there. They have Romeo Crennel. They have Brady Quinn, who's trying to come in at quarterback. Again, this is like Cleveland West, and Cleveland is not a team you want to duplicate in most scenarios in the NFL, and that's kind of what has happened in Kansas City. And I'll tell you what, KC fans are livid right now. They have Matt Castle back because Quinn is injured, but with the kind of stars that they do have on that team, you got Tom Hawley on defense, but you have a guy like Dwayne Bowe and Jamal Charles, great playmakers on the offense who are just being shut down. I mean, it makes fantasy owners mad, but it really truly is making Chiefs fans absolutely furious. I would say my biggest surprise, though, would have to be, or my biggest disappointment, I should say, surprise in the bad way, would be the Carolina Panthers. And Cam Newton, a great rookie year. Everybody's buying the hype. I said watch out for the sophomore slump, but I didn't expect anything like this. The Panthers just are having an atrocious year. They actually only have 18 touchdowns on the season this year. That is just that's just uncalled for. That is just plain wrong. The only thing that may be more disappointing than that is the fact that the Cowboys only have 15. But in terms of production, I am absolutely astonished, disappointed, and baffled by how poorly Cam Newton and the Panthers have played this year.
Yeah, his rookie year, that was just something special. His first two games, throwing for over 400 yards in each of those games, having, a phenomenal rookie season. Of course, the whole sophomore slump thing got thrown around before week one of this year. But, yeah, just like you said, there's a difference between going into a sophomore slump and just being absolutely awful. So, yeah, I would have to agree with you there, Dodson. It's a season that potentially had a lot of promise and a lot of hype with Cam Newton. It's just pathetic situation going on there right now. 2-6 record, and there's not much else I can really say. I think I would say in terms of disappointment, I would probably have to say maybe the Bills in a way, because I'm not saying that they're going to win the division or they're going to have necessarily even a winning season, but that organization spent a lot of money for their defense, and they're last in the NFL defense. They had Mario Williams. It's just a terrible situation going down there in Buffalo. So I think in a way I'm surprised in that regard, only because I just felt like he could have done more.
Oh, yeah. The Buffalo Bills have been chronic underachievers. Chan Gailey came on board there, was it about 2 years ago? A year ago? We thought that we saw some, perhaps a turnaround. Fitzpatrick is at best an average quarterback. Stevie Johnson is at best maybe a number 2 receiver on most teams. Definitely not a number 1 receiver. The running game has taken a shot with injuries out there. So, with that said, this is a team that's trying to find its soul, and they really don't have the soul to find. So Buffalo, you can say on one hand, Buffalo's been a bit of a disappointment, but on the other hand, they're kind of playing up to expectations because they've never really had the hype that could cause somebody to say, well, I'm a little disappointed. The team I'm most disappointed in, however, is the Philadelphia Eagles. Andy Reid and company. Michael Vick and his propensity to basically give the football away, either in the form of an interception or in the form of a fumble, at the most inopportune times as well. Especially when you're at going in for a touchdown or, at the 5-yard line. We have seen some tremendously bizarre plays coming out of Michael Vick, and the lack of production of LaShawn McCoy. And who's to blame on that, guys?
Well, I was just about to ask you, Greg. Who do you actually blame? I really don't blame Mike Vick very much at all for anything, and I certainly don't blame LaShawn McCoy. I do blame a little play calling on Andy Reid because he has not given McCoy enough opportunities. When one of the best back in the league only gets like 5 carries in a game, only 9 touches total in a game, that's ridiculous. But even more than anything, I blame something that you cannot control, and that's injuries. When you have 4 injuries on your offensive line, you're not going to be able to do anything. Mike Vick is going to be sacked. He was sacked 10 times last week. And, I mean, yes, a couple of the mistakes definitely lie on the shoulders of Mike Vick, but people are calling maybe it's time to bench him. Here's the question. Does the rookie Nick Foles really do that much better than Mike Vick, especially when he's going to have people in his back pocket the entire time because the offensive line is that bad? I personally don't think so.
You've seen teams, however, that have had weak offensive lines. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been notorious on having offensive lines that have just been like a sieve. However, the Steelers won their second Super Bowl with one of the most patchwork lines in professional football.
And here's the thing. You have a quarterback who's able to get his way and maneuver around and leave the pocket, that sort of thing, and avoid the rush. If Mike Vick can't avoid the rush, you really think Nick Foles is going to be able to?
Also, you have to take a look at the quarterback comparison as well. You take a look at somebody like Ben Roethlisberger, who is like a tight end or a fullback back there, pushing close to 300 pounds. It's over 6 foot, over 6'4" in height. And then you have Mike Vick by comparison, who is perhaps 6 foot and perhaps 200 pounds soaking wet. And with that said, it's you have somebody that cannot take a hit so much compared to somebody that has taken a hit and actually thrives when he's pushed outside the pocket and improvises. And perhaps it just goes back to Michael Vick not being the type of quarterback for that type of offensive line.
Yeah, maybe not. Let me give you one more disappointment, and it's the big elephant in the room, and I know Alex will want to comment on this one. My biggest disappointment of the year, and very well might be the way the Jets have used Tim Tebow. And what bothers me about it is the fact that, especially with a good coach is able to take his team and with the players that he has and adjust the system around it. Rex Ryan has been named now as the league's most overrated coach, and I think this is a big part of it. You have someone like Tim Tebow. You have no wide receivers out there of any significance. You have running backs who can do things. You have a solid running offensive line, and you have a mobile quarterback that you could put in Tim Tebow. Why not use that instead of the passer that Mark Sanchez is when he has people who are going to drop passes left and right because you have a patchwork wide receiver core? What do you think, Alex?
I think Rex Ryan should be fired. He is nothing but, he's just coming in all bravado, all talk, all this. He has no idea what he's doing. Even when he made the AFC Championship game those first few years, it still seemed like he had no offensive mind whatsoever. Why do you trade for Tim Tebow and not use him? It makes no sense. Then what? Did they actually plan on using him only a few plays a game? Well, Mark Sanchez gives the Jets the best chance to win? Really? How's that working out for them? Right now, I don't see any evidence that the Jets' Mark Sanchez is their best chance to win. All Tim Tebow knows how to do is win. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Tim Tebow needs to get out of there. He needs to be traded to Jacksonville and save that franchise because it's going to die. As far as this season, if there's anyone to save this season, it would be Tim Tebow. So Rex Ryan needs to get his head out of his you-know-what and actually start playing him. So I think another thing they were worried about quarterback controversy and hurting Sanchez's feelings. I think that ship has sailed. If you're done with that now, you're 3-5. You've got to do something. If this weekend comes against the Seahawks and they're not using him at all, I'd fire Rex Ryan on the spot. This is the most ridiculous trade I've ever seen in my life.
Well, that whole trade for Tim Tebow, I think, was just for show to basically get Tim Tebow off the market. Tim Tebow is nothing really that special. Yes, he beat the Steelers, okay, in the playoff game. But was it him that beat the Steelers, or did the Steelers beat themselves? And that's something that the Steelers have often done with their defense. They put themselves in a situation where they have a tendency to beat themselves in certain games. And that year where the Steelers were in that first-round playoff loss to the Denver Broncos, the Steelers they weren't firing on all cylinders, and they just made the playoffs. And that's just something that it probably would have been better for Pittsburgh not to make the playoffs, to be honest, there in that regard. But Tim Tebow is not the quarterback that people think he is. He's not the savior. And Rex Ryan knows that.
I'm not saying he's the greatest quarterback ever, but he does have intangibles. He does have leadership. He does add a spark. Yeah, you have to do something different. Tim Tebow, he has a different hybrid. He's a different hybrid kind of quarterback. He's built like a linebacker. He's hard to bring down. He does have confidence. He's not afraid at the end of the games to make plays. It just, at this point, you do something. I honestly want to see the Jacksonville Jaguars uniform.
Well, you see, and the trouble is the reason why they're not doing something with him is because Tebow is on the wrong team. Tebow, if he was put in the leadership role, couldn't lead because he wouldn't be allowed to lead because of Rex Ryan and
That's
because
of
the way the dysfunction of that organization is up in New York City. I'm sorry, it's the most dysfunctional organization in professional football.
Oh, it is. Ever since that foot video, I would have fired him. They have no idea what's going on. It's just ridiculous.
Well, that's why he was put as the number one most overrated coach, and that's just the way it is.
Who's number two? Learn who number two was?
Number two, believe it or not, according to the players, is Bill Belichick, and we could argue that one for ages.
Actually, Bill Belichick, I think, made a brilliant move when he picked up Aqib Talib. This guy knows how to win. Now, I think one of the most overrated coaches is North Turner, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah, he was definitely up there. Again, like you said, a story for another day. Why don't we move on? Here's a good debate that really I'm not sure if there's a legit answer to. Who would be your overall NFL Rookie of the Year at this point in the season?
Now, offense or defense?
Well, we'll say offense.
Offensive Rookie of the Year, Doug Martin.
Really? Over Andrew Luck?
Oh, yes.
Doug Martin did just have an unbelievable game, 255 yards, 4 touchdowns. He started off the year slowly, but if he continues at the pace that he is the last couple games, I think no doubt he wins. I think that I might have to give it, though, to Andrew Luck. He just set a rookie record in passing yards. He's leading a team already more than doubled their win total from last year. It's going to be tough not to go with Luck. The only thing that might hold him back is the fact he does have a more difficult schedule down the stretch, and that could keep him from getting it in the end.
So I have to argue that point about Luck with you. I'm in an argumentative mood. I don't know why, but Luck's numbers are pretty much the same type of numbers that Brandon Wheaton has put up. So how can you make that type of argument for Andrew Luck?
Wins. It's simple as that. Wins. And you know, you don't win the Heisman Trophy unless you win games in college. You don't win MVPs unless your team is winning games and pushing towards playoffs. And I think that goes the same way with MVP as it does with Rookie of the Year, unless you're that head and shoulders above the rest, like Cam Newton was last year. When it comes to a rookie, especially at quarterback, who can go and lead his team to playoff contention, and guess what? He has the same number of passing yards as the man he replaced, Peyton Manning. So, I mean, you can talk stats, but I can talk them as well.
Okay.
I have no argument there, Dawson.
No love for RG3, though, out there, maybe?
Well, you know what? It goes back to wins. I mean, if you're going to talk about wins, RG3, I think, is a better quarterback than Andrew Luck. But RG3 is on a team which, well, he's on a team like Cleveland.
Yeah, he was supposed to be on the better team than Andrew Luck when the year began, but I think that's quickly gone the other direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all about wins. So, I mean, as far as RG3 goes, I think one thing that worries me about him in the long run is just that he's on in my opinion, a bad organization. They haven't won in a long time. They spend money on players that they have no business spending money on. I'm not really big on the whole, other than maybe someone like a Tim Tebow, like a running quarterback type of thing. You wonder how long he can hold up. He already had issues before about, he had the head injury a few weeks ago. I don't know. I'm just not really feeling the whole RG3 thing, to be honest.
And now his coach has already given up on the season, according to some reports. And the way he talks. So things really aren't going well for him down in Washington. I can agree with that.
Yeah, Mike Shanahan, I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if the game passed him by or if it's just the Redskins or what.
I think it's Mike Shanahan, to be honest with you. Mike Shanahan hasn't been successful since he's left Denver.
Yeah, and that was, late 99 or early 2000, something like that.
Yeah, so it might be a situation where the game's just a little bit different now than it's been in the past. But I think a lot of it, too, is Shanahan's system and how Shanahan does things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we hit the Rookie of the Year. We might as well hit it. AFC and NFC MVPs for the offense. I think we're going to be in agreement. Defense is going to be J.J. Watt for sure. So let's go with the offense. Who is your MVP so far?
MVP on the offense in the AFC, Peyton Manning.
I agree. Just what a great comeback for him. You're out of football. The whole thing with Indianapolis. Everyone wondering if he can still play the game, and Denver invested a lot in him, and there was a very strong chance that, Manning being 36 years old, a lot of people thought, he's obviously on the downside of his career, coming off a big injury. Will he ever be the same again? He'd have noodle arm. It's really something special when he's at the top of his game in the NFL. It's just a pleasure to watch him play.
Yeah, when he's on pace to break his own passing records in a season, and the fact that he has, I think 4 interceptions on the year, and 3 came in the same quarter in one game, it just shows how great he's been all year round. So no doubt Peyton for the AFC. For the NFC, it's a little bit there's a little bit more controversy, but I don't think you can look past Matt Ryan with the fact that he's on an undefeated team, leading the team Peyton Manning through the regular season. We need to see what he does in the playoffs, but when you're undefeated on a team like that in an NFC that's very competitive this year, I find it tough not to pick Matt Ryan.
I agree with you there. Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, no, I agree completely. And actually, Greg, I think it might have been you who projected that Matty Ice would have a great year. Maybe I was wrong on that, but I think it was you who said he was going to have MVP credentials by the end of the season.
I did. I said that they were going to come up big and that that they would make a Super Bowl push, but I ended up saying that they'd fall just one game short. We'll get to that one in a moment.
Yeah, but going back to Matty Ice, Matt Ryan has all the tools to have a successful MVP season here. His wideouts are catching everything. The team is well balanced. It's well coached. You've got superstars all around. This team, it reminds me quite a bit of the Green Bay Packers 3 years ago. They've just got all the players and everybody in place to make that tremendous run.
Now let me ask you guys this. Every year we get two teams with astonishing records, and usually the two number one seeds don't make the Super Bowl. So what team that will probably end up with a great record will fall short in the playoffs? It'll be the Falcons, Bears, team from the AFC. Who's it going to be?
I would have to say, if I had to pick, I would probably say the Chicago Bears. Their defense is great, but the defense can only take you so far. When it comes to the playoff, you do need somebody on offense to step up, and I don't think Jay Cutler is that guy. So I would pick the Bears.
Actually, a team that I see that, now this is a team from the AFC, which has so much promise and potential. Houston Texans, I think, will fall short.
Mm-hmm.
You can make the argument for Baltimore, too. Depends on what Joe Flacco shows up, the one that can score 4 touchdowns or the one that can barely put up points against Cleveland.
Actually, I can't make an argument for Baltimore, guys, because of the secondary of Baltimore being so weak and all the injuries in the defense. This is a team that's in trouble right now. They're off their game. This is a team that I believe will probably lose 3 or 4 more games before it's all said and done.
I think the Bears would be the one team that would fall short in the playoffs because, as great as the defense is, you have to have good offense too. So, I would say probably the Bears. I could see the Texans falling short too. So we'll have to wait and see.
It's really weird the way the season has gone. When you have some of those top teams like the Chicago Bears at 7-1, how good are they? The Atlanta Falcons 8-0. I've not seen them once named as the top team in a power rankings. You look at Houston 7-1, Baltimore 6-2. But then you have other teams who are considered the top favorites. The Patriots, the Steelers, both at 5-3. The Broncos at 5-3. I mean, those are teams that are supposedly going to win the AFC hands down.
You didn't mention
then you look at
either.
Mention who? I'm sorry?
We haven't really talked about the Niners either. I think they're going to be a top team, except I think they're going to do well in the playoffs.
Right. No, and their record right now at 6-2 isn't anything too scary and able to write home about. So you never know, and we've seen it the last couple of years. 9-7 makes the playoffs. 9-7 can easily win the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Well, speaking of the Super Bowl, why don't we see if we can give a little Super Bowl prediction? Now we have half of a season to look at. Compare it to your original preseason picks, and have we made any changes, Alex?
I made no changes. I chose at the beginning of the season that we would see a Patriots and San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl. I'm going to stick with it. Every time you get a chance to choose the 49 or the Patriots in the playoffs, you go with them. They've been to 5 Super Bowls now since 2001. Bill Belichick, great coach. They just know how to at least get there. I know they haven't won their last 2 trips there. And as far as the Niners go, look, anything can happen. They can come out flat in the playoffs. Smith can have a bad game. But when the Niners are rolling, when they're playing to their potential, I think they're the best team in the NFL by far. I think by far. I watched them play the Green Bay game, the Lions game, even their last game in Arizona. I have never seen an offense just play with so much swag and confidence.
Well, Alex, you actually came out today in our Crane Room cast. You guys ought to go out and check it because he actually came out and said that the 49ers, if he had to build a team around an offense and a defense that is already built in the NFL, he would take the 49ers offense over any other offense in the league.
Wow.
I would. I know Alex Smith can't get the ball deep, but when that short passing game is rolling and when the running game is rolling, there's no defense that can stop it.
I'm going to have to start one of those press conferences here so I can start believing in that. No, I'll tell you, the team that I see going to the Super Bowl, the two teams, that goes back to my original prediction, Denver. I believe I predicted was going to be in the Super Bowl. And I see Denver in there against the Atlanta Falcons at this time frame.
Yeah, my original prediction was I was back and forth between Denver and Houston. I went Denver. I think I would still stick with that. I was back and forth between the 49ers and the Falcons. I picked the Niners. I definitely at this point would change it to the Falcons. I see too much good in Matty Ice right now. And I just think that'd be an absolutely great Super Bowl. You've seen so many comparisons drawn between Matty Ice and Peyton Manning. That would make for a fun game down in New Orleans. But don't forget, right now, if the Saints keep going, they would probably make the playoffs as a 5 or 6 seed, go on the road. They could be going all on the road throughout the playoffs and end up in the Super Bowl at home in New Orleans.
Well, that'd be something.
That would be.
Something to keep in mind.
Do that? Well, I think we've dispensed our judgment here on the teams that were worthy of having judgment dispensed. With that said, it's going to be an interesting second half of the season. Just stay tuned and
don't forget to keep coming back. 360 Sports Network.
That's right. That's right. The most dynamic sports network out there. So
The only network, 360 Sports Network.
Amen. All right, folks. Tune in next time for some more Fearless Predictions. I'm Greg the Mad Scientist Pichero. Have a good week.